Well, what shocks me is that I've been doing this for so long. When you say 50 years, it sounds long, but when you say half a century, it sounds long.
Don't think about it.
But it's been a life of poetry. And I dug out a poem I wrote in 5th grade. And Mrs. Violetti was my teacher, and she used to read to us Pecos Bill every lunchtime. And I got to love horses. And I knew one day I was going to have my own horse, which I did eventually. But this is called Horse Dreams. And I know it was 5th grade because I know I wrote it after listening to her read Pecos Bill. On the butterscotch island of hay, the sulky blue horse longed for fingernails instead of fat hooves. An old lady emerged from the forest of oats, her basket brimming with apples and carrots, warning the mare of the headaches that come with manicured nails, and the problems of racing the wind with daintily painted fedlocks that could break before you awake, shattering any horse dreams of heaven. Stay here, she cautioned, and roam free. In pony paradise, play free and just be. When morning comes, I'll dissolve in the mist, the star on your forehead, proof of my kiss. That's even older than half a century. But I wrote, I don't know how old you were. Yeah. Okay, in my first book, Glass House, there's a compilation of so many poems I published over the years. I never put them in this book. And I kept saying, it's time for a book, it's time for a book, it's time for a book. It just kept getting on the back burner. And then when I get the first edition, I'll tell you the reason why I finally put it in the book. But this is called Rose of Sharon. And when I grew up, we had a Rose of Sharon bush right outside our deck. Our porch was on the deck. And I don't know if you're familiar with the flower, but it's white and beautiful and has a blood red center. And the bees love it. They jab at it all day. And this flower closes at night, very demurely. And it reminded me of my mom, who had polio as a child. My dad had a heart attack in his early 30s. She was a stay-at-home mom, went to work, learned to drive, took care of 3 girls, and never missed a beat, like the Rose of Sharon closing at night. Rose of Sharon, full white blossom with scarlet filling. No wonder they call you. Each day opening fully, bearing your blood-red heart and beauty, then shutting demurely with the night. Even clipped, you follow the same routine in a glass jar or a crystal vase. The need is there to expose the center, the core of your reality. Even though, when full, open, the wasps and bees jab away at your primrose core, sealing your sweet nectar, while you keep the same rhythm every day of your life. Liturgy is one of my favorite poems. Mud Turtle Pond is up north of New Hampshire. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful setting where my first daughter-in-law's parents lived. And it was one of the reasons I moved up to New Hampshire, because the kids were living in Miami and we'd have to go to Connecticut and we'd have to go to New Hampshire. So I moved up and I haven't regretted it since. My daughter-in-law circled Newbury on the map. So it's close to the ski mountain where we like to ski. It's close to an airport when you come visit us. It's close to colleges where you can teach. It was the perfect place for me. But Liturgy at Mud Turtle Pond, I wrote when I realized how much I love nature and how much I found God in nature. And I don't know if you've ever heard the saying, but religion is sitting in church thinking of kayaking, and spirituality is sitting in a kayak thinking of God. You're here. So this is my take on finding God. It might have been the birds chanting Gregorian melody, heralding that moment between darkness and light, or the elusive otters frolicking in their kingdom, oblivious oblates, ignoring my silent canoe, and the early morning mist rising off the pond like an offering of heavenly incense. Perhaps the opalescent turquoise darning needles, shimmering iridescent angels skimming the water's surface, or the painted turtles swimming on fallen logs, stretching their necks to worship the sun, all converged like a prayer at noon. More likely, the plain pine table covered by a yellow striped cloth, where we shared bread and wine, brought me back to the altar of my youth. Or maybe the beavers living a life of continuous prayer, a life of beginning over and over again, building dam after dam that we constructed each morning to keep the water flowing, all whispered to me like vespers. Possibly the shadows standing tall and erect against the evergreen, like Benedictine monks clearing compline, silhouettes that eventually melted into golden reflections on the still water, brought me this peace. Or the company of two 90-year-olds who flirted and drank cocktails on the dock, keeping a vigil under the stars, crying out to be touched. It might have been any part of this liturgy at Mud Turtle Pond that caused me to wonder why I ever wandered so far from the God I love, only to find myself here in the woods, overcome with reverence, singing the silent psalm of praise. Now, William Carlos Williams goes by pediatrician. So somehow I feel I had no choice but to become a poet. My mother must have told me 1,000 times. She saved my life twice. So this is called To William Carlos Williams, the second time. Is it true all that my mother says? You saved my life twice. The second time, wanting so desperately for me to live, blowing life and spirit into my lungs. Yours? Have poems written by me lay dormant, germinating over time with the memory, that creative moisture in your breath? Have they come silently onto my page, recapturing that life-giving breeze? Extending myself deep into my past, do I find your need nurturing mine in a yellow house on Ridge Road? Did you leave a fissure deep within my soul twice? If you did do all that my mother says, do I thank you, praise you? I think not. My mother did all that. I am content to feel your breath within me and to taste the sweat of terror on your lips, feeling your satisfaction that I am still here. I'm trying to read favorites, but there's so many favorites. I get a lot of requests for this when I'm reading at colleges. And I wrote it way before political correctness became what it is today. But I still love it. And professors still love to hear it. Advice to my cat who would be a poet. And it's making fun of political correctness. I hope I don't offend anybody. Why do you stalk my mouth at the precise moment the muse stems, then delicately trip over random keys until a long line of feline poetry spreads before my eyes? If you want to be a poet, let me offer you some advice. Dig deep for the dirt, get into the root of your poem. You know, like you did to the potted gardenia on the dining room table. Then claw unrelentingly until you reveal the pure white ethereal stuff inside. Remember my once beautiful green floral sofa? Yield to the desire of the poem as if it were fresh chopped fruit. And then just stretch belly up, bare and exposed, letting it pour over you like satin straws of summer sunshine, filled with warm, wet cream. Ah, what a nice image, warm, wet cream. Do not be afraid of words or stifled by political correctness. Call your sister a sweet little pussy, for she truly is. And don't ever forget your mother was a big fat Maine Coon who never thought of herself as calorically challenged. Never tried to write like a dog. Or you may borrow the alliteration of his rough, rugged bark, or occasionally use the sweet singing soliloquy of a canary. But remember always, you are a cat with your own cunning vision of the world. Above all else, study those tenacious toms who place their paws in the tent before you. Those who howled on hot tin roofs, or fiddled while they saw cows jumping over them, or sang sonnets to kings after dressing up in boots of long black penny leather. Alas, my sweet Merlin, midnight comes and we must seek magic. Those are my three cats at this night magic in Merlin. But I get so many requests to read that at colleges. The next book is a book that should have never been written. First edition was written. I didn't write for a year when my daughter-in-law and grandson were murdered. I couldn't pick up a pencil. I couldn't barely exist. My only goal in life was keeping my son alive. And so this is a book that never should have been written. I was working on putting together the next book, but life interrupted. And the first poem in the book, David, would you come to me? It's written in two voices. And the first voice, which David is going to read, is the voice of the newspaper that came out on the day after the murders.
First edition. Curry Hill and Joseph John Velie III announced the birth of their son, Joseph John Velie IV, on this day, August 15th, 2000.
See that little white house right there? Yes, the one with the orange tree in front, and the little green frog whose belly button is a doorbell, where joyous coral and saffron butterflies out wine and cold, celebrate, dancing through the scarlet bougainvillea, purple passion flames.
Prison guard goes on trial in death row beating. Inmate on death row presses for execution.
Step inside, see the baby's breath, yellow daisies, apricot roses. Welcome this marvelous morning. Here in the den, mommy nurses her child with sweet breast milk. As they both inhale the honeyed scent of Hawaiian ginger blossom, Poppy has just picked from the garden, spread it through the buttonhole of mommy's blue blouse.
Clerical blunder gave all clear to 11 women with signs of breast cancer.
See it right there under her chin. Poppy, breathing tranquility, watches his new family from the kitchen. He cleans potatoes, cooks some soup, and rinses dishes. Later that night, when angels cradle the house with coppery coverlets of dust, baby gazes at his parent, learning his first lesson of love. Dreaming of God, baby drifts into sleep, gripping Poppy's finger, stroked by mommy's touch.
A former lieutenant of the Colombian drug lord, Pablo Escobar, accused of smuggling cocaine worth $1 billion a month, landed in Miami early Saturday.
Watch quietly. Mommy and Poppy cuddle, whisper. They hum a lullaby while baby absorbs every word. Maybe they talk of their childhood or how they will raise their newborn. Maybe they just relax and wander into the future, wishing on satin stars, smiling with a full moon, and memorizing this magical moment in their little white house.
Curry Hill Velie, age 35 and 8 months pregnant with her son Jack and 2-year-old son Joseph John Velie IV, were found brutally murdered in their Coconut Grove home on this morning, September 6, 2002.
I tried to focus on the first book in the poem, on something beautiful and positive. And I described their house. And the rest of the book starts with the horror. I don't read the horror. It's you whose name I can't speak. And then there comes a time. There comes a time when you see the first sign of healing. My son never went back into his house in Miami. He came to New Hampshire with me and lived there. And his friends, I've never seen such friendship. His friends had a calendar, and 3 of the guys, I felt like this would have been precious. his friends left their families on a weekly basis. So he always had 3 of his friends with him. And they did that for 4 months, driving him to doctor's appointments. We underwent EMDR therapy. I don't even know what that is. It's my motion and desensitization programming, which helped prevent our memories in a different spot in your brain. But anyway, there was one day where he came down and made himself breakfast. And that sounds like such a mundane thing. But this poem is called Tea. Your Poppy has made his own cup of tea this morning. Put water in the kettle, boiled and poured it into a mug with a tea bag. Then he peeled and cut into small pieces his own banana. Such simple, mundane tasks. So earth-shakingly normal 3 months ago, but now fettered with leaden chains of grief. Today, a slight resolve firms his steps, an inherent need to walk upright again, to try and function in the face of this world without you. I turn to watch the white birch outside drop its remaining rain. They float, mingling with the snow. There is no wind today, and this moment sits frozen as the bird bath, able to quench a British starling's thirst, as frozen as our weighted hearts. But for the first time, I begin to believe there is a chance spring may come again. And then the final poem in the book is called Metanoia. After we worked with parents, not parents with birth children, murder victims' families for reconciliation, they told us that we had a chance to ask for a plea bargain to the death penalty case. And we asked that there not be a death penalty for that. If he agreed, we would tell the prosecutor no death penalty, like three consecutive life. And this is called Metanoia, when we finally came to that decision. Metanoia, and it starts with a quote by Jack Gilbert, one of my favorite poets. To make injustice the only measure of our attention is to praise the devil. Talismanic rosary in hand, I watch the breath of morning arise. Warm mist drifting upward from the cold waters of the lake, ascend into heaven. New clouds, baby clouds form, from water to air, a mystery unfolding before me. Wafting east toward Mecca, aglow with the rising sun, they become angels with outstretched wings, joining hands to worship the dawn. Diminutive drops of dew descend upon my cheek, mixed with a trace of tears, uniting me with these celestial scenes. After all our sorrowful wailing, are we not, after all, mostly water? Infused with this infinite power of transformation, my soul billows with them. We are all one spirit, and permanence only a physical illusion. The full moon still accents the shifting sky, and day and night are one, until a dove coos, cracking the scarlet coat of dawn. Then reality returns. This simple reality. Somewhere in a cell, a murderer still breathes, his breath commingling the atmosphere with ours, until all our bodies eventually evaporate, join as one. This unshakable reflection acknowledges that these temporary vessels we call home are merely swells in an incalculably deep ocean, so that even through tidal waves of grief, we must allow the longest night to pull us back into the light, risking forgiveness as we search for peace. So that's a book that should have never had a chance to be written. This lecture is a little wobbly. I feel like I'm moving. Okay, the book that should have been next was Many Roads to Paradise. Oh, this is a good one. Curves. Not all readings go the way you expect. Some of us were at that reading. Curves. They really threw me a curve, occupying the 2 empty seats on either side of me, filling the vacuum in the circle of chairs, assumed to be saved for special friends or guests. Climbing over everyone, they muttered tandem continual excuse me's, unaware of their disturbance as they balanced free food and drink on paper plates and in plastic cups. Pausing mid-poem, allowing them time to be seated, I tried to resume, but loud burps interrupted any hope of pursuing more poetic. Peering above my reading basket, I observed on my right the Venus of Willendorf, her roundness overlapping the cushioned chair and sliding onto my thigh, her pendulous breast resting unrestrained on her loaded lap, and her garish glasses taped together between her eyes with duct tape. On my left sat Tweedledee, Bermuda shorts hiked up high above his waist, and a beanie plucked on his head. Back and forth in front of me, these free spirits passed their treats, commenting constantly on the deliciousness and quality of the chips and peanuts. They gobbled between birds. On one such pass, soda pop dripped from his cup and down my silk blouse, as the bookstore's owner face flinched with fear, unsure how to handle the spiraling crisis. Trying to regain some control, I stated I would read one last poem, with burps and then farts as background music. I read a poem called Pure Bliss and opened the evening for questions. Venus, tapping my shoulders with immediacy, asked, "Do you sell books here? I love purple poetry." I am amazed at this connection. We are all, after all, at Violet's bookstore. As I contemplate an answer for her inquisitive mind, she blurts, "I love curves too," and holds up her canvas sack with the curves logo, now obviously crammed with abundant free food. Impossible not to smile and harder to contain giggles. Violet rolls her eyes and adds, "What about movies? I love movies." Obviously, Venus loves everything, including Tweedledee, who has continually beamed a beatific smile upon his true love. So pure, so poetic, so pure bliss. I think of my own self-consciousness with a few extra pounds around me. I think of the insecurity of walking into a room of strangers and my hunger for the unsaturated fats those two so thoroughly enjoy. They are the pure poetry, uninhibited and naked, imprinting themselves on the minds of all of literary critics who will always remember with emotional intensity the villains of this night. This is great. This has been copied over so many times. So I thought because I knew how to ski, I could snowboard. It's two different skills. But I was challenged because we were 3 generations junior. Some thoughts on snowboarding at age 55. Ouch, right in my tailbone again. My waterproof ski wear is so saturated there are rivulets dripping down my legs. Ooh, where did my breath go? I'll just lie here on my belly for a while, trying to breathe. Truthfully, I can't get up. My unmerciful baby-faced instructor, the one I've labeled Attila the Hun, placates me with paid for supportive platitude. "You're doing fine. Dig in, you board. Push up with your hands now and get up." Okay. So I will ignore the pain in my shoulder. Get up and balance gently now, he commands, as I slide for less than a foot and crash. Ouch. Do I really want to get up only to drop down like a dead dinosaur? This bunny slope will take an hour at this pace. And then there's that awful chair. Just once, let me get out of the chair without raising a spectacle and taking every teen and tot down within 10 feet in my humble tumble. Ouch. My foot looks funny twisted that way. Maybe it's not broken, but I need aspirin. Lots of aspirin, an aspiring ancient snowboarder's best friend. I have resigned never to strap this horrid thing on my feet. When I am gliding, shifting my weight ever so subtly, pointing my board downhill, covering real distance, Then I'm going goofy. Goofy. A goofy terminology for wrong foot forward, which spirals me into an unplanned, unexpected, but almost graceful 360-degree turn. Oops, I'm down again, but I'm smiling, though no one can see because my face is buried in snow. Writing myself hastily, radiant with snow, and radiant with snow burning, accumulated humiliation. Another blow creeps into my cheeks as my aristocratic, intelligent, young snowboarding coach slaps me 5 and yells, "Wicked funk!" And I get up, Grandma Dude, and ride. I wonder what this one is. My son remarried a wonderful French Canadian, and we danced to Bob Dylan Forever Young for our mother and son dance. And it was just so ironic, both of us losing spouses in different ways. Forever young, so you're not. Together we have listened to Joan Baez, Bob Dylan, and the Grateful Dead, live in house, past this wishing one. Hearts left alive need to beat, and so we dance. Mother and son encircling each other, widow and widower, embracing our past and throwing open our arms to catch the blazing future, who gazes at you in assurance in a beckoning ivory dress. So, we're moving along.
If I'm bending stiffly, it's because I've got arthritis and the body doesn't move like it used to.
Not snowboarding.
Oh, no more skiing. The Alchemy of Desire was the next book. And it talks about desire in all different shapes. This is called In the Beginning, and it was inspired by Mark Twain's The Diary of Adam and Eve. In the beginning. Talk about a new beginning. 1 minute ago I sat here a lump of dirt. Now I'm a man, using these things I've labeled. Words for my arms, my legs, my sky, my sun. Me, it's all about me. Maybe I'll be the world's first poet. Me, I write, I walk, I jump, I'm hungry, I'm lonely, I'm silent. I'm wishing. Must be careful with that concept wishing. The beautiful silence has disappeared. I woke up with an ache in my side, and there she sat. Sort of like me, but yet really different. She can't stop talking about something called emotions, and a no word, we. We should do this. We should do that. What have I done? Now it's all about us. Now she's gone and done it. Wish for other creatures. They're all over the place. She especially loves those things she calls cats. Arrogant little fur balls. I hate them. The one that goes woof, though, I've sort of adopted. He obeys me like I thought she would. I've named that one Dog, the opposite of the guy up there, christening himself God and calling all the shots. Also, a few of these other animals are making me salivate. I wonder, I could use a little more than nuts and berries. And those plants she started to chop up into something she calls a salad. But to tell you the truth, if that slinky creature crawled around the apple tree, that's hypnotizing. Trust me, that one's going to cause trouble in paradise. Genius that I am, I think I'll start my novel with that scene. It will be my masterpiece. It will be my genesis. Everyone will know my name. Oh, domestication. This is a sonnet I will explain. It's a Shakespearean sonnet with a line. And my daughter-in-law just keeps telling me what a great son I raised. And you'll see why. Domestication. My daughter-in-law thinks I've raised a gem. Her dear husband who loves to cook and clean. My domestic skills are an endearing emblem of how I raised. I smile, serene. His laundry tasks are quite meticulous, and whites stay away from multicolor. The bread is always perfect, ravenous folks agree, whole-grained and full of flavor. My son, Mr. Wonderful, because of me? Honestly, these traits I do not possess. But I suspect the reason is simply when he was 8, I will now confess. I turned his white hockey socks hot pink and burned the bread as black as could be. Thought he could do it better himself. Oh, this is a great one. When I say great one, it's one of my favorites. When you're widowed so young, I was in my early 30s. So you meet a lot of bad dates. And this poem is called Bad Date. The blue clown cut it. Nor did the big red balloon to really mark his presence. But worse, the nitwit who kept his hat on, tied as I say, his total boldness. Better yet, a 12-step AA lecture while I choked on a glass of wine, inhibited any windswept romance from occurring. The edges blur, but extreme guilt over a wife's suicide is not a first date conversation. Under that bedquilt, I do not venture. I'd rather hibernate. But one kudo to the man who likes new fat, saying I look better than 250 pounds, poor rat. Jesus greets Jan. You all know Janet Joplin died. No. He waits patiently at the gates of heaven, pleased with his sunset view, tie-dyed robe. She stumbles in, rubbing bloodshot eyes behind her rose-colored glasses. Sure, this is just another bad trip or a batch of bad bourbon. Jesus smiles, grabs his guitar, and plays a couple of familiar riffs, crooning, take another little piece of my heart now, baby. And signals to the angelic chorus to join in. But surf and really get down to a wild welcome. Janice, not one to be denoted, wheels back. Oh Lord, won't you mind me, Mercedes Benz? After a flying ovation, she realizes she is not with the cosmic food band or Big Brother in the Holding Company. Work me, Lord, she whispers to Jesus, looking for a stage in her psychedelic Porsche. Jesus hands her a shot of Southern Comfort, a drug-free zone pin, and a golden heart. She plucks a few strings and sings to the Messiah. I need a man to love. It's only about love here, Jesus assures her, as wardrobe gets her for a halo and a wig. Jesus whips out his harmonica, and together under the big sky dome they built out. You know you got it. It makes you feel good. A hero. I was Daddy's little girl. I'm the oldest of three girls. And with the two other sisters on the way to provide me with attention, I became my Daddy's little girl. This poem is called Hero. He was a Marine, killed sergeant in World War II. Daddy didn't dare tell Mama how to raise her three daughters. Especially, he didn't dare tell her no Catholic schools. But Daddy, a brave man who fought to the Philippines, earned all his medal and my heart when he waltzed into my third-rate class, lifted me into his arms, and danced past Shock's and Sister Canisius. Triumphant, Daddy didn't dare go home. Instead, we went to Joe's Bar and Grill, the local gym, and I sipped pink soda while Daddy downed courage. Hours later, with the audacity of 2 ice cream, we confronted the home front where Mama screamed about the school club. Daddy didn't scream back, only held my hand tighter, kissed Mama's reddening cheek, and then my nose. Falling asleep that night, translatable silence, that would torpedo our home for months. I learned absence of sound does not equal. Worlds exist beyond words, and a hero's victory always involves someone else's defeat. Kissing Marilyn Monroe's crew. My son and his wife live in California. She works for the W Hotel. And right in downtown LA is the Westwood Memorial Park, which is a cemetery with a lot of things buried. And my sister and I were there, wondering what the crowd was. It happened to be Marilyn Monroe's birthday. And people were dressed as her, and there were all lipstick marks on her crib. Everybody was kissing her crib. So this is called Kissing Marilyn Monroe's Crib. It starts with an epigraph by Marilyn Monroe. I knew I belonged to the public and to the world, not because I was talented or even beautiful, because I had never belonged to anything or anyone. Marilyn Monroe. In the corridor of memory, she rests eternally, closed inside her crypt. Bouquets of white roses and pure lilies adorn the stone memorial facade, now covered in red and pink kisses, neatly puckered and placed bright mementos of devotion from her friends, visitors, and the occasional cross-dresser, who with tears cascading through his mascara is now kissing Marilyn Monroe's crib. Embarrassed yet riveted, I witnessed this intimate display of female adoration, inhaling the scent of Chanel No. 5, whirling around us as he faces me and swirls his white dress, adjusts his blonde wig, and waves me forward. Impulsively accepting his lavish invitation, I take his manicured hand and kiss her crypt, where I leave my coral lip print in the Westwood Memorial Park, playfully blowing my new friend a kiss, while dreaming my long brunette hair blonde. Bend your knees and put your back up your shoulders. This book I wrote while I was recovering from knee surgeries. I'm a bionic woman, 2 knees, 2 shoulders, all body, all replacement body parts. But ever after, it was just a spook, my version of fairy tales. And I had fun writing it while I was. First one I'll read is How Did I End Up Here? And you already know this. How did I end up here, taking care of 7 little men with strange names, who work in the coal mines and drag dusty, dirty boots across my spotless floors, expecting me to wash their filthy laundry and cook them dinner? And if that isn't enough, there's that old hag who keeps wanting to give me apples. My pretty one, she calls me. Taste my lovely apples today. So one day I took them all and baked a pie for 2 little grapes, and they all dropped dead. I can tell the truth doesn't believe the old hag story. I am numb and in a trance, going through this nightmare, and my prince of a public defender waltzes in with a woman who confesses she just wanted to kill me. I hug my attorney, and he kisses my snow white cheek and then my ruby red lips. I pat my ebony hair, fix my bow, and smile for the journalist. But I know I will only sell my story to those 2 cute reporters named Bryn. Alice meets with her substance abuse counselor. And it starts with a quote by Jefferson. And if you go chasing rabbits, you know you're bound to fall. Alice meets her substance abuse counselor. You must stay out of Central Park at night. Your excuse is getting old. You can't keep telling me a hookah-smoking caterpillar made you eat those hallucinogenic mushrooms. Now let's talk about your anorexia. You are getting smaller and smaller. And now, after first meeting you, you were huge, obese, out of rehab, and talking about getting fit. Now you've fallen down the rabbit hole, taking everything to an extreme. Don't go drowning in your own tears. Let's have ourselves a cup of tea. I have some explaining to do to the Central Park Zoo officials. The flamingo you were using for a croquet mallet last night might not make it. It's going to be off with my head for allowing you probation after your ecstasy ran about a disappearing cat who left behind also only a Cheshire grin. But I must go wrap this session up. I'm late for an important day. And yes, I think it's fine to have a pet dormouse. Good for your head. Jefferson Airplane. Remember what the dormouse said. Feed your head. Feed your head. else. Wendy. Wendy dreams of Never Never. I should have flown away with Peter, even knowing he was bisexual. Now I'm stuck in this mansion in suburbia with a huge staff. My husband has grown as fat as me and as grouchy as both. I am certainly no match for Tinkerbell, even after all my facelift and hours with my personal trainer. My husband and I both work at least 50 hours a week, and we've gone through nannies galore. The kids are seeing psychologists among all their other extracurricular activities. It's more than I can manage. I should have sewn Peter's shadow onto mine, forever bonding us in a delightful fantasy. We would have painted whimsical dreamscape paintings and opened an art gallery for display. I'd remain forever young, felt like Peter, promising never to be jealous of the mermaids, Indian maidens, or Tink. We'd take daily swims in the lagoon, and brave Peter would keep the pirates at bay with his trained crocodile. The lost boy would never have to take SATs or write college essays. We could frolic with them freely, but no. Here I sit, my third cocktail in hand, full of lust, dreaming of pompous Peter and his pixie dust. So that's all about fairy tales. Italian lesson. I was lucky enough to teach poetry in Italy. Once in the Lago Maggiore area and once in Cortona. And then I have cousins in Sicily that I visited several times. So I decided to get all the Italian homes together. Involved in the photography. With this beautiful photographs in here I took of Italy. Italian lesson. My Italian needs a lot of help. Spongy coral-like object on my plate does not appear edible, or anything like what I imagined seasonal fish stew. I thought I had would look like. Poking at the glob with my fork, it wiggles as my knife struggles with the first cup, proceeding with serious caution. The smallest possible piece makes its way to my palate. I have chewed softer gum. My mind starts screaming, "Don't swallow," and perspiration streams down my silk blouse until with childlike deception, I lift my napkin to my lips, pat them delicately, and spit out the masticated mess. Inhaling and then gulping my wine, then some air, I smile at the Sicilian waiter and then my date and ask in perfect Italian, "Che cosa è gusteco?" He answers in perfect English. One must develop a taste for Italy, signora, especially a taste for Trent. Oh, to the ravioli I left me. I'm forever boxing food and eating. Saying I'm going to take it home, and then I get home and ask the Bob, you take it? No, I thought you took it. I'm at the table in the restaurant. Oh, to the ravioli I left me. True to my fickle brain, I left you behind in the styrofoam to-go box, destined you to the restaurant's trash bin, instead of providing me with two scrumptious lunches. You were perfection, a glowing olive oil. Your little patty cakes of dough infused with spinach and filled with fluffy ricotta, sauteed peppers, broccoli, and mushrooms crowned your glory. Oh, to leave perfection behind. Forgive me, please, and add this error to the temple of my transgression. Unless, of course, I pray, the Italian waitress took you home to relish after her long shift, sitting in bed with her American boyfriend, seductively feeding each other tiny morsels of insulting indulgence. This would grant me forgiveness and atonement. This would clean my plate. I'm nosy. And we were walking through Cannero Riviera. It was an old church, and people were going in not a sightseeing church, a little church. And so I grabbed Bob and I said, let's go in. And the rest is St. Faustus. Elegant and round, La Chiesa di San Giorgio in Cannero Riviera, reverberated with the sound of ancient organs, sweeping me further into the tapestry than my initial peek through the front door. Mesmerized by this ageless music, I noticed parishioners walking reverently up steps near the far right corner beside the altar. Curiosity, despite my husband's restraint, lured me up into a small dark room. There, elevated in the glass coffin for the faithful to adore, lay St. Faustus, or the relics of what once was St. Faustus, displayed like sleeping beauty in all his full priestly fidelity. Needing a closer look, I climbed one or two rickety wooden staircases leading up to either end of the coffin. St. Faustus, resembling the Pillsbury Doughboy, having lain there peacefully for centuries, was suddenly disturbed as I lost my balance and grabbed the coffin. A miracle. The coffin merely shifted. Faustus only teetered. My husband tottered, racing right out of the church, and I fell to my knees as if giving thanks for not fainting, because Faustus never folded. I was really scared the whole thing was coming down. And this is a Petrarchan song. When I was in Cortona, the farm that we were staying on, the owner's mother had a white stallion. And stallions are usually horse control, but she knew I was a writer. And his name was Petrarch. So how could a poet not write a Petrarchan sonnet about a horse named Petrarch? Petrarchan pride. Writing the white stallion named Petrarch delights me as much as writing a song, Petrarchan style. He does not know this poet brushing, but his eyes show the spark of a reigning dictator, a monarch in his red barn in Cortona. His coat now is smooth as snow white velvet. I prepare to saddle up and embark on this brave Italian adventure, knowing I am in for a wild ride. Confident and completely sure I can handle this untamed galloping stride, I herd you on through the pasture, where he bucks me off the troubled pride. You wonder why I can't move. One more from this book. Or we brought all the students to a farm up in Jimenda, high in the mountain, where the farmers cooked for us. I can't tell you how many horses. It was just amazing. And a lot of the women were just gaga-eyed over one of the farmers who was running around with no shirt and doing his farm chores. So I had to write a poem about that. And the text videos. Art. We have explored Florence's Uffizi, witnessed personally prominent works of priceless art. Da Vinci, Michelangelo, Botticelli, and the rest. But here in the Alps, beside a simple goat cart, in front of the rustic brick house on his farm, Stefano stands tall, spare, and stark. A basket of onions sits poised on his arm, while sunlight glistens in olive skin, perspiration and part of his natural charm. He tosses us a heartbreaking grin, set in aqualine features that make us faint, while we think of how many ways we can sin. This feast and female artistry paint, alas, some artists with great moral restraint. And this the last poem in this book, we stayed in an old monastery, and the door would never lock. We'll have computers, photography equipment, because somebody was teaching a photography course. The door would never lock. We finally got used to it and left it. The day we were leaving, it locked. And this poem is called On Eva's Urge. We closed the huge red door of weathered olive wood. A door we were somehow never able to lock. The 5 dead bolts forever refusing to align. The door we left open like our hearts, arbored by a grapevine still displaying clusters of amethyst jewels. A door harboring expensive camera equipment and computers, containing a lifetime of stories. This store behind which our ethereal world exists. Photographers turn water into wine with infrared cameras, capturing our world in a magic world, where we wandered, strangers, searching ghostly images that materialize into stories and poems told with waving hands, glittering starry eyes. This door, having beckoned us to come, rest and create, now blushes in the amber sunset as we prepare for another door and another door when we hear the accidental click. The lock, more knowledgeable than faith, seals shut like a camera lens
Hey,
closed.
honey, why don't you go over here?
Revealing, remembering, reporting our week as our lives hold back. Okay, so I read a poem from 5th grade. Now I'll read something very recent. And then one poem from my book. Got so tired. Some of you in the Dianalee Poetry Society. Some water. But I've gotten so tired of needed to carry. I'm really disgusted. So this is breaking news. This is Elvira Elf reporting to you live from the North Pole, where the community shakes in shock. Frosty the Snowman has just announced his engagement to Snow White, only 1 month after divorcing Sneezy Silver, who made him the man he is today by showering him with a passionate blizzard. This also will be the first intermarriage between 2 reigning dynasties, Santaland and Fairytale. Snow White has never even seen snow despite her name, and she comes with lots of baggage.
Boy.
7 little dwarfs who claim she will be happier commingling with the elves, who stand closer to their diminutive pursuits. Rudolph has no comment on whether he voted Santa's slave with a freezer to care for Frosty on his midnight.
Good boy, Oliver.
Needless to say, more on this story. Update. This is Elvira Elf updating you on the breaking North Pole gossip with exclusive interviews with all the parties. Snow White. Frosty is the coolest guy I ever met. Frosty. Snow White is hot. Dopey. We're moving where? Sneezy. North Pole will be great for my allergy. Happy. Can I be the best man? Sleepy. Couldn't be woken up for a comment. Bashful. Just turned red as a cherry when asked about the upcoming marriage. Grumpy. It will never happen. Snow White will have to have a new wardrobe of white ornaments. She's prone to cold in the moment. Santa. I'm in heated negotiations with the Brothers Grimm. No comment. Mrs. Claus. Oh, I can't wait to put the wedding. Elves. We're going to need to form a union. Snoozy Snowflake. Prince Charming. What you do, Snoozy darling, on Friday night? We're free. Finally free.
She said she couldn't. Oh, I didn't know. Is there a number she can call into?
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
And then I read one poem from the new book I'm working. It's called Her Stories instead of His Stories. And it's poems, a lot of them in the voice of little known women in history. And they're telling their side of the story. This particular one is called Queen of Spies. And I never heard of her until I read that up. Posthumously, I was labeled the Queen of Spies, awarded a variety of medals. I served my country of France during World War I with the guise of Alice Dubois. For the English, I was devotee to pass on information about the Germans. Louise de Bedinier, my actual name, was not learned until my capture with contraband. My knowledge of 5 languages, the same ones I taught in the continent, served me well. Also, my petite frame and ability to change demeanors and costumes may be able to tell lies, flourish as a spy, and continually exchange identities My Alice network saved many lives. You can read and get about me for World War I. So thank you all for coming out on this cold winter night.